Perhaps it was because the heir was forced to wait on his father's death for his own real life to begin, and the father was all too aware of that fact. For once, Mr. Westall was pleased he had his own way to make in the world. But then again, he thought, looking at the Duke's cool features, it must be hard to develop fondness for a man so lacking in any kind of warmth. The Marquis was warm enough with his mother, who had a very sweet nature. Very close they were. Well, Arden was known to be a devil with the ladies. The Duke turned at last. "Mr. Westall, be so good as to send a message to the Duchess to request a few moments of her time." The secretary could find no clue in his face or voice. In fact, though Mr. Westall, as he passed on the instruction to the footman stationed outside the door, a stranger would have assumed that no matter of significance troubled the Duke. And yet it clearly was not so. For him to visit the Duchess at this time of day was a dramatic variation of routine. The mysterious letter must be to do with their son. The dashing Marquis had probably broken his neck in one of his madcap stunts, and then where would they all be? The nearest relative was a second cousin. The House of De Vaux had passed the title from father to son for 200 years without interruption. The Marquis would be no loss, but the end of such a fine tradition was worth regretting. When the footman returned to say the Duchess was available at the Duke's convenience, and the Duke went off to break the sad news to his wife, Mr. Westall was already checking the amount of mourning stationery in his desk. The Duke was admitted to his wife's airy apartments by her dresser, who then discreetly disappeared. The Duchess was sitting, needlework in hand, by the light of French doors which led to a balcony. The February air was still too chill for the doors to be open, but bright sunlight spilled in to give the illusion of a later season, and daffodils and hyacinth bloomed in pots to scent the air. The Duke admired the fact that, unlike so many women of her age, his wife did not avoid clear light, and he acknowledged she had no need to. Her face announced her 52 years and all the smiles and tears they had contained, but that did not detract from her beauty. Silver was steadily muting her bright gold curls, but her eyes were the same clear blue, and her lips were still softly curved. He was taken back to the first time he had seen her, sitting in the garden of her parents' chateau. "Good morning, Belcraven," she said in her soft voice, which still retained a trace of the French which had been her childhood tongue. "You wish to speak to me?" Her expression, as always these days, was gently courteous. He wondered if there was any chance this miracle might mend things, but then he put such wistful thoughts away and walked forward to hand her the letter. "Yes, madam. Read this, if you please." The Duchess adjusted the delicate gold-rimmed pince-nez she too was obliged to wear for fine work, and concentrated on the letter. The Duke watched her reaction carefully, but saw no shock or pain, only mild surprise. When she finished, she looked up at him with a smile. "How very silly of her not to have applied to you before, Belcraven. What do you wish to do? I would be happy to have the girl here. She is your daughter, and I have missed having daughters around since Joanne was married." The Duke walked away from his wife's calm gaze, and took again to perusing his estate. How foolish of him to expect his wife's outrage at this proof of his past infidelity, he thought. How foolish of him to want it. Yet he longed for something sharp to finally break the icy shell that had encased his marriage for over 20 years. "No," he said at last. "I do not want to bring my bastard daughter here, madam. I intend to arrange a marriage between her and Arden." He turned back to see his wife's reaction. She lost the delicate colour in her cheeks and seemed to age before his eyes. "Arden? But he will not do it, Belcraven. Only last week he wrote to say he was screwing up the resolution to offer for the Swinnemer girl." The Duke's nostrils flared in anger. "And why did you not tell me of this? Am I not allowed to take interest in my heir, even if he is no son of mine?" The Duchess's pale hand rose in instinctive defence against his accusation.